Come on in. You want to sit here so you don't have to crawl over so many things? Oh,
Well, we can get you a chair.
That's easy.
Yeah, that's easy enough.
I told you that.
Why can't we just grab one of those chairs?
Can you set your leg up on that thing? What is it, right or left leg? Right leg. Okay, so this has got to be, I'll go down there.
Yeah. Sit down.
What we have is a failure to communicate.
That's it. Cool hand Luke.
And I just got told it was for Father's Day.
Do what?
Did you really?
And I've been wanting to read it, and it's been out for 2 years. And I thought,
I know, I don't like it.
because I learned to read. You don't want to talk directly into the mic because you get all the peas and pops and oohs and ahs and all that.
You want to sit here?
How are you? How are you? Ball of fire is always too much of one.
Say just over a week, so go back to that. Then I'll put it.
All right. Let's-
Uh-huh.
I'll be taking.
Yes, I know. Thank you. I gotta go to Bob's. Thank you. I can't drive only, so.
All right, everybody, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. We have to, in the absence of our chairman and vice chairman, we have to appoint somebody this meeting to serve as the chairman. So if a board member can make a nomination.
I nominate Mark Spencer.
So
Okay,
you've been bamboozled, kid.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so Mark will serve as our acting chairman for this meeting. I guess you can call it to order now.
And without further ado, can you hear me? Is it good? Okay, cool. I've been told that you hear me. First off, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thanks a lot for coming, and we're going to call this meeting order. As is our tradition, we're going to take a moment of silence. You know, probably a moment of silence for those folks down in that sub that they just said that they were, for the folks in Ukraine, for the folks in Montreal. So we'll just take a second. Okay, thank you. Well, the first thing on our agenda here is to ensure that we have a quorum. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. New folks that I haven't seen. No, recent other folks that I haven't seen. Sorry, I'm not looking. Okay. So looks like we have a quorum. We'll proceed. Don't need a vote for that. I would also like to, like I said, welcome everybody. I guess, is this online as well? You guys out there too, welcome. So what we're going to do is follow our normal agenda. And so I need, do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
moved.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And second thing we need to do is adopt the adoption of the February 23rd. Yeah, adoption of the February 23rd meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion? I hear a second.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Okay. Before we get started, I'd like Kayla to kind of give us what we decided to do. Just, and she didn't, you're doing an excellent job, by the way. So just keep it up. What we'd like to do is first talk about maybe some ground rules, you know, the normal ground rules about a quasi judicial meeting. And so if you would, Kayla, go ahead.
So Mark, if you'll read the request that we have before us tonight, that's on your agenda, then I can start checking with conflicts of interest for the board members.
Okay. Variance request VA 2022-03, a variance request to section 809 of the Montreat zoning ordinance to allow an 18.36 square foot wayfinding sign on the eastern side of Assembly Drive, approximately halfway between Lookout Road and Community Center Circle, on the lot described as PIN number 071096841 and then 5 zeros. Submitted by Tanner Pickett on behalf of the property owner of the Montreat Retreat Association. You want me to just...
Okay, so I'm gonna go through and ask the board a series of questions to determine conflict of interest. If any of the questions apply to you, just stop me and let me know if you have something to share. Once if anybody does have any conflicts of interest, if you can just state whether or not you feel you'll be able to make an unbiased decision after you've declared that conflict of interest, that would be great. If you intend to vote on the case, please state that as well. If there are any board members that feel that somebody's declared conflict or, you know, whatever they're declaring, if y'all feel like they shouldn't vote in this matter, we can put that to a vote of the remaining board members. Okay. And that's just the process outlined in the bylaws. All right. So the first question is, and this is for all board members, have any of you discussed with any other member of the Board of Adjustment the project, the application, anything under those items?
You said discuss with board members.
With other board members, have you guys discussed the application, the project, or the property? No? Okay. All right. Do any of you have a fixed opinion prior to the variance that is not susceptible to change? Okay. All right. I'm going to ask about ex parte communications. So just as a refresher for our board and for our audience, ex parte communications are communications between an interested party and any member of the board. These communications can be written or oral. Okay, let's see. So have any of you had any ex parte communications with anyone affiliated with the applicant regarding the project, property, or application? And that also would include anybody seeking to oppose the application.
Kayla,
Yes,
You're on.
you're on.
am I on?
Just
I'm curious. I heard about this prior to this meeting.
Mhm.
It came over an email. So
Yeah.
I didn't, not from you, a member of the public, and I just didn't know how. I thought these meetings were supposed to be quiet and secret and nobody was supposed to know. But it seems like a lot of people know.
No, nope. That's no, not quiet, not secret, nothing. This is open to the public. We advertise, we make sure that the community is aware that this is occurring.
Okay.
What we just want to prevent, because this is a quasi judicial hearing, is the board members being unable to make an unbiased opinion by some sort of outside information. And so that's why we ask about the ex parte communication. So if you received that email, Arrington, do you feel that you can still make an unbiased decision?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. All right. Next is any close familial relationships. Does anybody on the board have any close familial relationships with the applicant or anyone seeking to oppose the application or anyone that might be affected by the application? No. Okay. What about business relationships? So any business relationships with the applicant, opposition, or anyone affected by the issue?
What does that mean, business relationship?
So
About other stuff?
a business relationship, I would say, is if you're an employee
Oh, okay.
of the applicant,
Or,
a current employee or past.
have business, outside business. with-
outside business with them. Yeah. Okay. What about associational relationships? So an example could be, participating in an event hosted by the applicant or the opposition. Oh, this is where an employee comes in, not business. So this one, associational relationships would include being an employee of the applicant or the opposition, serving on a board for the applicant or opposition. Does anybody have any associational relationships with the applicant or the opposition? Not at this time. Okay. All right. All right, the last one is whether there's any of the board members have any financial interest in the outcome of the application. Let's see.
Kayla, back up a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm chair of land care, and on land care committee, the MRA has got 3 representatives.
Mhm.
So I do have an association with those 3 members.
Okay.
But it will not affect my decision here at all.
Great. Thank you, Arrington.
And I need to, that's why I was asking, what
Sure.
does that mean?
I believe it would include.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm also like Arrington, I'm on several different committees that would be involved with them, but I also have a proposal before Richard to do some stuff with the nature center.
Okay.
So none of it has anything to do with this, though.
Okay. Do you feel like any of those relationships or associations would make you unable to make an unbiased?
No.
Perfect. Okay, last one is the financial interest. So does any board member have any financial interest in the outcome of the application, the project property, the success of the applicant or the opposition? And has any board member or your spouse or partner ever made charitable contributions or other financial contributions to the applicant, opposition?
Ever?
I mean, yeah, I have.
Yeah,
You don't have to tell me how much.
yeah, I
No.
have as well in the
Okay.
past.
David, do you feel like any contributions you've made in the past would impact your ability? Perfect. Martha, I ask you the same question. Do you believe that your contributions you've made in the past will impact your decision today?
No, I can be impartial.
Fabulous. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for entertaining me. Just trying to make sure we are covering all of our bases. Mark, I will hand it back over to you.
I pay taxes to the town of Monterey. Is that exactly?
I have not been advised on that.
chairperson at the moment too. Boy.
Thanks, Gail. Appreciate it. Okay, so I guess, what we need to, really talk about is, what's a variance?
Okay, well, first thing we want to do is swear any witnesses in, and then,
I didn't know, I didn't see, other witnesses.
well,
Besides-
anyone looking to speak, I need to be sworn in, the applicant needs to be sworn in, and I believe we have one member of the public who'd like to comment on the application. So when Angie gets back in here, she'll swear us in.
Okay.
And then we can open the hearing and get started. Angie will be back in a minute. So is it just? Okay. All right, so we have 4 people that need to be sworn in. And I'll ask that when you guys do come up to speak, you state your name and address for the record. And you guys, if you want to just say you're with the MRA, is fine. Okay, so you need to come up here.
Yes,
Everyone.
it's a baby Bible. Yeah. All right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You're now married.
Okay. Well, I guess what we'll do is we'll follow that path. I would like to, if I could clarify just one thing. As it relates to, a variance, a person needs to have standing, correct? So therefore, what we do want to hear everybody in the public as well. But what I'd like to ask is if for the people who wish to have standing, who want to speak, if they would come up or identify themselves who wish to have standing for this variance.
So I think, Mark, them coming up and being sworn in, I think satisfies that. And I'll leave it to the board, whatever that they state, if the board wants to enter that into.
Being sworn in does not validate whether or not they have standing. Or
So do you
not.
want to do that one by one now?
Well, I'd just like to ask if there's anybody who wants to come up and testify who say they have standing, so we can just validate that. Anybody?
Yeah, I guess we'll just ask each person to do it.
Tanner Pickett, 102 Walker Street, Black Mountain. I work for the MRA and I'm the applicant of the.
Okay. And how do you feel like you have standing because you're representing the applicant on the applicant's behalf?
Yes.
And the applicant has told somebody this or put it in writing or anything that this is the representative?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Tanner. Tanner's the
I'm the Vice
applicant.
President of Communications.
Yeah, Tanner's the
Okay, that's
signature.
all.
Tanner's
I
the applicant.
just-
Difficult.
I just wanted to make sure. we did that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Mark, I will say it is difficult to determine standing like while we're, kind of live like this. But
Okay.
yeah, so I don't,
Well, no debate between us, but what I'd like to explain, what I learned was that to have a valid person that talks, you have to say they have to have standing. And the folks that are of the general public, it is our tradition to allow them. But as you know, in previous, you can have everybody right to speak.
okay, so why
So
don't
I
we
just
have
wanted
the
to-
next interested party come up so we can keep moving?
Good evening, Sarah Boffman. I'm representing Montreat College here. 310 Gaither Circle will be the college's address. I obviously am a neighboring property, representing a neighboring property, but also have vested interest in the signage.
And because your name is on the sign?
Yes.
Or
Yep, so it's a 2-part sign that includes the Retreat Association as well as Montreat College and the wayfinding.
Thank you.
And then the last interested party.
I'm Martha Campbell, and I'm a property owner within the radius that was defined for the public to have standing property at 304 Texas Road.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to go. Can you open the hearing, the public hearing, Mark? Have we opened?
But I'll open it. We're open again.
Yep, we need to open it. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, I'm gonna start us off by going over the application, just as we normally do. Okay. So my name's Kayla DiChristina, and I am the zoning administrator for the town of Montreat. I request permission from the board to enter into the record my staff report with exhibits, the presentation, and then the applicant's application package. Is that amenable to the board?
Let's read it.
Is anyone, okay,
Any objection? Okay, rock and roll.
all right. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm gonna begin by providing an overview of the subject property. I will note that the area of this application is on a piece of land that is much larger than the actual area of this application. So when I'm talking about the subject property, I'll specify what is the larger property and what is the actual focus area of the application. So I do want to also note that the larger subject property is owned by the Mountain Retreat Association, but the portion of the subject property that's the subject of the application is part of the right-of-way of Assembly Drive, and that right-of-way was conveyed to the town via the green space agreement. So therefore, the area of this application is technically under the ownership and jurisdiction of the town. The applicant received approval from the town at their the February 9th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting to place the proposed wayfinding sign in the area of the application. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So the focus area of the application is the portion to the east of Assembly Drive between Lookout Road and Community Center Circle. The subject property is about 26 acres, but the focus area is less than 0.01 acres. It's just a strip of grass. The subject property itself is owned institution, conservation district overlay, and town center overlay, and it contains recreational and institutional uses. The focus area is zoned the same, and it's a vacant strip of land adjacent to Assembly Drive, and on that area is an existing wayfinding sign that's proposed to be removed. Next slide, please. So this is the location of the subject property. The area of focus is circled in red. So it's right between Lookout Road and Community Center Circle. Yeah. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is the surrounding zoning. Again, the area of focus is circled in red, and it's zoned conservation and town center overlay and institutional. Surrounding the area of focus are properties in the same zoning districts, including institutional and residential. Next slide. Surrounding uses. I've just highlighted a couple of the surrounding uses around the area of focus just to give you guys an idea of where it is in town. Again, it's between Lookout Road and Community Circle, and surrounding the area of focus are institutional uses of both the college and the MRA. Next slide. These are zoomed in areas, zoomed in aerials of the area of focus, just again to give you another idea of where we're talking about. Next slide, please. Okay, now we get to the good part, the application. Okay. So the applicant's variance request is to allow a sign larger than that which would be permitted under the Montreat zoning ordinance. The applicant is unable to replace the existing wayfinding sign that's in the focus area due to its non-conforming nature. The existing wayfinding sign is in the same location as the proposed wayfinding sign. I'll talk more about the non-conforming nature in a minute. So per section 809, privately owned wayfinding signs must be less than 4 square feet in size if they're not a part of a community wayfinding system, and the proposed sign exceeds this size since it's 18.36 square feet. Section 809 also requires permission from the town to place a sign in the town's right-of-way, and As I said earlier, the applicant obtained permission from the Board of Commissioners at their February 9th, 2023 meeting to place the sign in its proposed location. Next slide, please. All right. So as stated, there's an existing wayfinding sign, which is shown on the screen before you, where the new wayfinding sign is proposed. So this sign is considered non-conforming since it's believed to have been placed prior to the enactment of the ordinance. Section 810.1 of the Montreat zoning ordinance states that neither the design nor the dimensions of a non-conforming sign can be altered, and the applicant is proposing to alter the design of the sign. Section 810.2 states that non-conforming signs can only be replaced if destroyed by vandals, accidents, or adverse weather conditions. Normal wear and tear is not included. Since the proposed wayfinding sign is replacing an existing non-conforming sign that was not destroyed by vandals, accidents, or adverse weather conditions as specified in the ordinance, and will have a new design, the existing sign's non-conforming status is nullified, so the new sign must conform to the regulations. Next slide, please. These are the proposed designs of the sign. The Board of Commissioners also saw these same designs and didn't have any issues with them. So as I said, the proposed wayfinding sign is 18.36 square feet. It's double-sided, and that area is per side. So the town did adopt a wayfinding plan in 2014, but the plan was never implemented. The area that this sign is in is generally identified as having a wayfinding sign, but there's nothing in that plan that indicates that this sign is a part of the system. And we know that the plan itself was never implemented. There was never funding for it. The applicant also could not provide evidence that the proposed wayfinding sign was a part of this plan. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the location of the proposed wayfinding sign. The proposed sign will be more than 20 feet from the center line of Assembly Drive on the east side of the road and more than 4 feet from the travelway, which I considered to be the roadbed. Next slide, please. So these are the findings relevant to this application. So the proposed sign is considered a wayfinding sign per section 809. The proposed sign exceeds the maximum size limit per section 809, and evidence was not provided that indicates that this sign is part of the community wayfinding, the adopted community wayfinding system. And then staff found that the wayfinding sign will be at least 2 feet away from the travelway of Assembly Drive, and the applicant has permission from the Board of Commissioners to place the sign in its proposed location. Next slide, please. Okay, so on the screen before you are the 6 findings of fact that the Board of Adjustment must make to grant a variance. As a note, if a variance is granted, it shall be the least possible deviation from the requirements of the zoning ordinance. In granting any variance, the Board of Adjustment may prescribe appropriate conditions and safeguards in conformity with this ordinance or the general ordinance. In the board's final motion to approve with revisions, or deny the variance, please use the template language in the last page of your packets to clearly state the board's reasoning for each finding. This helps draft the written orders later so that we can make sure we're accurately capturing the record. Right. Are there any questions for staff? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we all know, everybody here familiar with what we have to determine in the variance and the questions that we have to answer. And so the questions, each one of these that we have to answer had to be very specific based on, can you relay those briefly for us?
Is it this?
Mhm.
Is it this piece of paper that?
Yes.
Okay,
This is specific, which is very good.
I did have a question, if we can go back.
Yes, Martha.
If the Board of Commissioners.
Would
has
you,
already-
Josh, would you open the PowerPoint back up and go to that last slide? Thank you. Yes,
If the
Martha.
Board of Commissioners has already approved this sign, why is it before us today?
The Board of Commissioners approved the location of the sign. The sign, the ordinance limits the size of a wayfinding sign to 4 square feet. This wayfinding sign is a little bit over 18 square feet. So variances are under the jurisdiction of the Board of Adjustment. So unfortunately, this had to go through a 2-step approval process. And the applicant decided to go to the Board of Commissioners first and then do the variance after.
Oh, I'm so visual. Could someone mark out 18 feet? 18 square feet. For me.
Let's
You
say.
move the chairs around.
Look the sign.
Oh, that's the sign. Ah, okay. Thank you, Tanner. Okay. Thank you.
And it's 18 square feet, not 18 feet.
Yeah,
There's a difference.
18 square feet.
Big deal.
If you'll go, Josh, will you go backwards? Go back one slide. Another. Okay, so this is the proposed design of the new sign.
Okay, so I have just a clarification question. So it's 4.08 and 4.5, which is 18.36, right?
Mhm.
And the maximum allowed is 16. Right?
No, is 4 square feet,
2 by 2.
2 by 2.
Even
That's the maximum for a non-government owned wayfinding sign in the ordinance.
So I think if we would like to hear from the MRA first, if that's it.
Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions that you have about this. Just a point of clarity, or just make sure there's clear understanding on this. We're not looking to remove the actual frame of the sign as is. We are merely looking to put a new face on that. And instead of the metal that's there that won't hold it, we're actually looking to use a material similar to this that would hold up longer. That sign's been there from a little over 25 years, as far as we can tell. So we're looking to do something that would hold up longer. So just for clarity, we're not looking to take down the existing frame and put something new up. We're just simply looking to put a new face.
And the ordinance stipulates any change in design, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I know, you're just the messenger.
I did bring this sign that I have here is a little less than 4 square feet. So I just wanted to bring that to kind of show you for context of what the ordinance allows. It hints, I mean, there's 2 reasons I'm looking, I guess, for a variance. One is just to replace what's there. And 2, I think that if we did put a sign that is in the actual, in accordance with the ordinance, be so small that people driving down the road actually would not be able to see it. The manual, I was actually researching this, in the manual of compliance for the Department of Transportation advises like 4-inch lettering for sign wayfinding signs that are going to be viewed by cars going 35 miles an hour or less. So I mean, it's a pretty substantial font size for a sign that small. We really wouldn't be able to get anything on there. So anyway, so that's part of the reason I'm here in front of you today.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I hope nobody's going 35 miles an hour where that sign is right now
That's true.
to begin with,
Well,
but
it is actually 35 or less.
yeah. But that's not my question. What's the frame made out of?
Wood.
And it's been there for 25 years and it's still good?
It needs to be repainted substantially, I think, but yes, it needs to be cleaned and repainted, but it's still there.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Is there anything else, Kayla, that'd be helpful for me to clarify? Sorry, one quick thing. I noticed in the slide that was up there, it did show on, let's see. Josh, if you could go to, I think it's slide maybe number 6. Yeah. Where it says Montreat Lodges up at the top on the back. So I guess one distinction from the sign, right now you have one sign that has wording. Rather, so the back of the sign is blank. So what we're proposing to do is have it front and back. So coming from town, you'll be able to see something. But you'll notice here it says Montreat Lodges. I had a request from someone. Oh, sorry. I had a request from someone to remove Montreat Lodges because they were worried it would get too much traffic near their family home. So, which I complied to and said we would take that off. So just as a note, that would be a little different.
Okay. That was via email, right? Okay,
Yeah.
yes, no, he's correct and
And then the other thing, I don't, this would have been put up prior to 2014. So there's no assumption that this was part of the 2014 wayfinding plan at all. Again, these were put up 25 years ago. So I don't know who put it up or why, or my suspicion is that it had something to do with a joint effort with the college and the conference center, potentially the town as well, but we can't prove that.
yeah, the only thing I would say, is I would encourage you all to reference the applicants, the responses that they gave in their application. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
No one else. Okay. No, if you don't have standing. Either way.
I just want to affirm that Montreat College supports moving forward with the variance to replace the sign. It's kind of the first impression and the first mention of the college's name directs us to our campus. We don't have any other street wayfinding signage, so it's really valuable in helping get visitors and guests to our campus center.
I'm Martha Campbell, and I speak on behalf of one of the property owners within the radius that has standing, and we support the replacement of this sign with the new front as Mr. Pickett has proposed. I was also part of the wayfinding committee. I was a commissioner at the time, and I was on the wayfinding committee that worked on the wayfinding plan. And part of what we did for about a year and a half, two of us just took a lot of walks, and we wanted to know, where do people try to find? How do they try to find places, and what are their questions? And this sign and this area was one of the things that was focused on when people would say, how do I find the college? Or where is the auditorium? Or the sort of general questions for those who are not familiar with Montreat. So I especially, just from that personal point of view, support the sign. I like the fact that they've returned to the colors which came after this sign was created, of having the green and the blue for the two institutions. And you see that throughout their signs around the community. But I support that and the use of this sign, because although people shouldn't be driving 35, they need to be able to see the sign without stopping and reading it, because that's also a traffic hazard. And we have a crosswalk right there that's enough to try to pay attention to.
Well, I was just thinking it would be nice if they didn't do 35, but they do.
Well, right. That's your comment. But anyway, I do support the sign personally, but I'm on behalf of the property at 304 Texas Road. Our family supports this sign.
So you said that, or it was said that this actually wasn't ever the original wayfinding committee wasn't ever actually approved, or was it?
It was approved by the council, but it was never funded. We had a number of signs we proposed, not real different from this, where we showed things related to the college and the conference center on like a kiosk near the gate and some other things. to try to help people because we just found lots of people who were kind of lost. And we wanted to be welcoming and not have people be anxious and trying to drive and look around and stuff. So, but it was not funded.
So the plan was adopted. It was not implemented,
I'm sorry.
not implemented.
Not it.
Yeah.
So would you entertain a motion?
No.
No.
At this point, I would like to see if there's any other questions that anybody has, and then I'd like, or any statements? I mean, should we talk about it, or should we just?
I think we need to
Accept
have
it
a
as it
motion
is.
before we discuss it.
If you guys are done allowing people to speak, if you'll just close the public hearing and then.
Yeah, we need to have a motion and a second and then discussion.
And then you guys can go ahead and have your discussion.
That's. Okay, any other things that we need to talk about before we close this?
Now, remember, you guys can still ask questions of the public. The public just can't get up
I understand.
and talk freely anymore once you guys close that public hearing.
Nothing to, okay, so I'll then officially close the discussion. I mean, the okay, it's fine. Questions, comments, opinions?
Now you ready to entertain a motion? Okay. The motion is to grant or deny a variance request to section 809 of the Montreat zoning ordinance to allow a 18.36 square foot wayfinding sign on the eastern side of Assembly Drive, approximately halfway between Lookout Road and the Community Center Circle on the lot described as PIN number 07109684 140000.
Yeah.
Submitted by Tanner Pickett on behalf of the property owner, the Montreat Mountain Retreat Association. Do I hear a second?
Whoa.
No, that's not
Hold
it.
up, hang on. I have to stop you guys. So you need to discuss the findings of fact. You need to clearly state why you are finding each finding of fact, the reasoning behind it, and then the motion is what Arrington read, but it's approve with conditions or deny. Arrington said approve or deny. So it wasn't clear. So if you guys can, I need you guys to.
Did you amend?
No, I need you guys to, before making a motion, I need you guys to go through the findings of fact, clearly state why you're finding each finding of fact correct and true, and then you guys can make a motion. So one
I'll
by
speak.
one.
I'll speak to number one. The board finds that unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. Because, and Pickett spoke to that if the sign was not big enough for the signage or the font size to be big enough for someone in a car to read it, the sign would be useless. And Martha spoke to the fact that even the wayfinding sign committee wanted a sign there that would be legible, that would be helpful in directing people. And I can speak to having worked in conferences where one of the hardest things we did was try to get people from one place to another because of the lack of good signs. So, number two, the board finds that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. I don't know how pertinent that is since the Board of Commissioners has already approved the placement. I think we could exempt number two.
No. You can't exempt it. I would refer to the applicant's application. So if you guys would look at that page in your application, in your staff packets,
Kayla, I don't have a packet. I'm
I
kind of,
have an extra one.
do you, thank you. I'm kind of at
Mark, do
loss.
you need one as well?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I thought. I did read it.
I'm giving him wrong. I know.
That's probably a better way. Why don't we, instead of using the.
Do you want this back?
Instead of using this, let's make sure, and let's just. Read, not be redundant, let's just. Read it.
Oh.
Okay. Right.
But I, so-
Back to one that just said, no, keep that. That's what you want.
Oh, this.
Thank you.
so Mark, what Martha did was correct in stating, you know, the pieces and who said it. If you guys do want to refer to the applicant's application or any of the staff materials, you guys are welcome to do that. Yeah, so I think Martha, unless anybody has any other discussion on number one, okay, so if you guys would move on to number two.
What we should be asking on item number 2 is the board finds to decide. The board finds that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to your property because.
This is what I proposed that would answer that. This right. So, because the existing signs proximity of the town center and the institutional buildings make it an ideal location. However, the allowable sign dimensions, 4 square feet, does not give enough space for legible wayfinding directions, especially from a vehicle. A larger sign would be easier to read and stand out from the existing trees and foliage. The redesigned sign uses the existing sign structure and allows for a more usable wayfinding sign, keeping consistent with the other institutional signs and at a minimal cost.
Item number 3. Board finds that hardship did not result from the actions taken by the applicant or the property owner because.
The current sign, which is 27 years old and predates the current ordinance, is in disrepair and gives a poor representation of both institutions.
Comments?
No.
Item number 4, the board finds that the variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance.
The proposed sign is in accordance with the purpose of the ordinance because it is specifically for the purposes of wayfinding at a crucial intersection at the town center.
Questions? As a member, I can also give my opinion as well. I went through the wayfaring plan from beginning to end. I read it. The wayfaring plan was very specific. And even though it was adopted, it was never, I guess, embarked upon, but it was adopted. And several things just stood out to me about the wayfaring plan. And the gist of it, and everybody can read it. And so I guess I found it online so everybody can read it. The gist of it is they had this meeting, they had this group, they got together and did great work, by the way. I thought it was excellent work. It was also kind of specific and very specific in certain areas. one of the things that just popped out at me is they didn't want all these different kinds of blues and greens and purples and different size signs and so forth. They were going, if you read it, they were going toward a consistent thing, a consistent approach. It needed to look the same and so forth. Further, it was differentiated between what the what people said they wanted and what was actually being proposed. Without guidance, total guidance, it refers to kind of like we had another thing. It refers to the wayfaring plan. I mean, it refers to look at what is it supposed to be? What is it supposed to look like? And what I saw was, like you said, nothing ever really happened. And do we? And don't we? Follow it or not? I mean, I'm confused. Do you follow it or not? And that's not for you, because so anyway, what I saw was that a couple of very specific things, if I could just bring them up, and then I'd like to see if anybody it said that the existing directional signs are a collection of individual signs installed at various points that direct visitors to select few locations. Major destinations owned by Montreat College and Montreat Conference Center are marked. However, these signs are small and not easily read. Many of the signs are uncoordinated and vary in color and design. I didn't write this, it's not my opinion, this is from it. Their color and design. The existing directional signs create a cluttered sign environment that reduces overall visibility. Montreat needs a wayfinding system that has large, visible, easy to read signs that with pertinent information at the proper locations. The signs will provide better information and will do so in a cohesive manner that is more effective and welcoming to visitors. Over time, implementation of the wayfinding signage plan recommendations will reduce the sign clutter, create a neat and coordinated visual environment. So I think that you go into a state park. Okay, sorry. You go into an environment like a state park or a federal government or whatever, and you see that we always have the same thing. So do we, is that what the goal of the wayfinding? If it was implemented, I'd like to at least know what the goal was. Was that the goal, to keep it where it was consistently and then signs that were wayfinding signs needed to be sort of like that as well? That's my question.
She's going, yes. She said yes.
You said yes, and I saw.
She was on the committee.
I understand.
She probably wrote that.
I saw her say yes. I'd like to understand, was that what you were trying to address?
Thanks. Yeah, I think once we did this application process, I got the information about the wayfinding plan that was never implemented. And so that's how I understood that as well. However, there wasn't, I mean, we just continued to kind of have that sign deteriorate. And at some point, I mean, I get questions all the time about why doesn't the MRA replace the sign? It looks really bad. And well, we can't. So that's part of the reason we went ahead and went to the process, because I didn't see anything in the near future that looked like there was going to be an actual wayfinding plan. So that we came up, Sarah and I came up with the design that's currently there just based off what we thought institutionally we needed. And barring any other input or direction, what that needed to look like from a talent perspective, which is kind of why we started this process.
So item Other questions? Yes and yes. Go to item 5. Board finds that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make it possible for requested use of the land because. Can it be any larger, smaller, different color, whatever?
I think it goes along with the gist of what my committee with the wayfinding group we're trying to do. They want to have something that starts building consistency. It's not implemented. That's okay. It should be implemented is the point. So that's where we're going with this new sign. This is maybe the first step and maybe we'll get some funding and it'll happen for the rest of the Montreat property. That's the way I read it.
The only thing that, that I would add to Mark's descriptions of how it should be, if you have things consistent, it speaks of professionalism. Like you have a plan, like you know what you're doing, other than just blue sign here, green sign there, yellow sign here, da, 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 da. I like the step that this is taking, like David said, and maybe it will be a format that the rest of the town and the college will pick up on.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I think at some point, my only comment may not, I don't know if that's enough to change any decision on my part, but would also like to see parking areas and things like that, which is also mentioned in the wayfaring plan. I'd like to see a combined, I mean, we're trying to put forth, people are trying to get directions here. And so it's not just where this lodge and where this is, there's a lot of things. The parking lot is over here. So I think that needs to be added.
I agree. And I think that the signs that are on, if Montreat chooses, if MRA chooses to be green, then every sign that pertains to MRA should be green. It's parking signs that whatever direction shots should be green.
I
The
thought,
college-
y'all, I thought that we
Time
were
out.
just, that we were
getting
only
too far in the
talking,
weeds.
talking about this
Yeah, we've
particular.
got one variance for a sign, not parking lots, not
Okay.
the rest of Montreat. Let's focus. Sorry.
The wayfaring sign is a wayfaring sign according to, and it should include parking lots and other things. It should be consistent throughout. So people, if I'm driving through, I know to go that exit for cars and that exit for trucks. I know to, so
I think that's
disagree.
I think that's an institutional decision. I don't think the town should tell the conference center or the college what color their signs need to be.
I will say that one of the recommendations in the comprehensive plan is to update the existing wayfinding plan. So some of these things that y'all are saying maybe would be more appropriately addressed in a wayfinding plan, since technically this sign is not governmental.
So it's not a government plan. Get to the point where they put the green sign in red and so forth. When we get to the point where, so let's say we approve this, we get to the point and it's green, it's got their logo and it's got this. Do we then allow them to be grandfathered in and not have to change their sign when the wayfaring plan comes out? What happens? Or should we work collectively together to try to see if we could, at least at this point?
I think that's a conversation for when the investigation into the wayfinding plan happens. Part of drafting that wayfinding plan would be looking at what's existing and figuring out the best way to allow signs that are still existing to remain the way they are while also planning for signs in the future. We don't know when that plan is going to be updated, investigated. The comprehensive plan hasn't been adopted yet. So yeah, I mean, this
It's
is
a-
an independent venture, but just as a general rule of practice, when you're doing something like a wayfinding plan, you would look at what's there and try to make it work.
Well, let's stick with this and get this done.
Smooth.
No, I need you guys to do 6. Number 6.
Oh,
The board finds that variance is not a request to permit. I'm sorry, can you hear me? Sorry. The board finds that the variance is not a request to permit use of the land that is not permitted in the applicable zoning district as the variance request is for.
and that is correct.
Comments, questions?
So Mark, if I may, so based on this discussion, does everybody agree with the reasonings behind the board finding these 6 findings of fact?
Yes.
Okay. If you guys want to go ahead and make a motion, you can. I just wanted to get that on the record that everyone's okay with what we've discussed as far as the justification behind the 6 findings of fact.
All right, so you want me to restate the motion?
And clearly state whether it's approve with conditions, or deny.
Okay, the motion is to grant a variance request to section 809 of the Montreat zoning ordinance to allow an 18.36 square foot wayfinding sign on the eastern side of Assembly Drive, approximately halfway between Lookout Road and Community Center Circle on the lot described as PIN number 07109684140000000
I know.
submitted by Tanner Pickett on behalf of the property owner of the Mountain Retreat Association.
Second.
So, oh, good. Second.
Okay. Is that a motion to move forward to apply or deny?
Motion. Yes, sorry. Okay.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion's adopted.
So Tanner, if you'll stay after.
Do we have anything else to do before we
It said-
adjourn?
It said open to any other open
New business and then adjournment.
items. I don't want to be redundant, but I would like to see. We've had problems in the past here with comprehensive plans that aren't followed, wayfaring plans that aren't followed. Then it comes to here and we're to use language like this and ignore the other things that supposedly have been voted on. I've got a real problem with that. Like, for example, if you put a red sign with green polka dots over it, you submitted a sign, it had your logo on it. And it had things pointing this way and that way. It would have been just as easy to say, oh, let's have a real wayfinding sign, so we don't have a bunch of different kinds of wayfinding signs and coordinate with the town to do it. That would be my recommendation. It's not a requirement on my part, it's my personal opinion. It's my own personal opinion. Yeah.
I agree with that totally, Mark, for the reasons that we've both stated.
Just to clarify, I asked how we could get this sign redone. We'd happy if the town had wayfinding, like a wayfinding structure that we could use. It said, here's the sign template that we want to use. So this was just the process I was given. So Again,
And we don't have that.
We
It's
created,
not implemented.
we created this because there wasn't anything in place.
But-
Just,
I just want to say that I think very highly of your creative skills and the college's creative skills, and I don't want the government to control everything. I would rather trust you guys in your field to do that so we don't have to. So that I'm opposed to what my dear friend is saying.
Actually, that's fine. That's great.
but I mean, just clear, we weren't trying to just create our own thing that was completely askew with what the proposal was. There just wasn't a proposal, and I mean, I've been here for 10 years, and the sign just, I can't touch it. We can't fix it. We can't paint it. We can't wash it really without redoing the sign. And so, but I'm happy if the town would have put a sign there. There just wasn't a process to do that apparently other than this. That's why we're here.
That's a good idea that the sign maintains it and creates it and that with your input. I like that idea.
Mhm.
When we found out that it was a sign that the MRA paid for originally, but is now on green space, it's essentially to the town, it created some complications, I guess, into who's responsibility.
I have a question as a new member of this board. I may agree or disagree, I mean, but is this the right arena for this discussion? Because it seems to me that there are, yeah, that's what I was thinking, and I just didn't know, but I'd
This
like.
this is something that should be brought to the attention of the Board of Commissioners. This is not really the venue. This is not the venue to have this discussion. If the board wants to submit something to the Board of Commissioners saying, we'd really like to really see this wayfinding plan, come to life, I think that would be fine. But as far as, continuing on this is not really the venue for it.
So is the point that you're trying to make here is that even though it was adopted, ignore it, it's no good, that's what, we should ignore anything that's adopted by the town. Or since the town didn't adopt it, it's no.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Mark.
Should we do?
Mark, it was adopted. It was not implemented. This sign was not a part of this community wayfinding plan. If the application had been put forward by the town, we may be looking at a different situation, but it was put forward by a private property owner. Right.
Understand the difference between the government owned and the rules on the government owned signs and the rules on the private. Signs. I just don't.
I understand your frustration too with things that are adopted but not implemented. I understand that. And
Can't help
I
that. That's not our
admire how much
jurisdiction.
time you put in pulling all this out.
10 years.
That's it. This is a concern for the Board of Commissioners. If you guys have it, I ask that you bring it to the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
Okay?
Very good. Well, that's good. We've already voted. Anything else that we'd like to bring forward?
Move to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done.
I know, I was very impressed.